Welcome to REST, which stands for Resiliency and Empowerment Seminar today. I am your host, Susan Gans, and I am the founder of Gans Strategic Solutions, where we operate at the intersection of business and human behavior. For more information, you can find us at www.gansstrategicsolutions.com. This show is about hearing from leaders of small and mid-sized businesses as well as nonprofits. We talk about their journeys, we hear about their organizations, and very importantly, these days, we talk about how they're being resilient. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Chris Vaglio to our show. A bit about Chris. He is the CEO of Rocket Growth Agency, a personal branding, consulting, and coaching agency. As an experienced entrepreneur, he understands the unique needs of business owners, independent professionals, and marketers to engage and increase their visibility to their network and audience. Chris partners with clients across verticals, including professional services, marketing, creative services, cannabis, and CBD. Prior to founding Rocket Growth, Chris was the co-founder and co-owner of Gray Sky Films, a video production agency that he started back in 2000 and grew into a seven-figure company and successfully exited. Chris has over 20 years of experience working with Fortune 100 and 500 companies, marketing agencies, and digital agencies. He is the host of the weekly live show, Rocket Live, on LinkedIn, and also the host of the Rocket Growth Agency podcast. In addition, he is the proud father of two beautiful daughters and husband to his amazingly supportive and patient wife. His Boston Terrier, Milo, keeps him smiling and laughing all day long. He is a certified Star Wars nerd, me too, whiskey drinker, and listens to as much hard rock and heavy metal music as possible. So welcome to the show.
Great. Yeah, excellent. That's actually the first time I've heard anybody read that out loud. So that was really good. That was great. No, thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today. This is great.
Yes, we're going to have fun. So let's just dive in.
Sure.
So take us back to the earlier days of your career. How did you decide that marketing and consulting were for you?
Well, it's actually a really funny story. So my career actually started pretty much right after college. My business partner and I, Mark Soraya, we met at college. We actually met at the registration line, signing up for our classes back in 1992. We became really close friends, best friends actually, and then we started off at community college and then went to William Patterson University together. Both graduated there. And, we both went for filmmaking. That was my major. I took no business classes, never thought about starting a business or anything. Literally, my goal was to become a filmmaker, make films, do commercials, do music videos. That was all I wanted to do. And same thing with Mark. And I just remember this was like maybe we were 6 months out of school, and he called me up and he's like, hey, you know what? I just got out of the shower. Why don't we just start our own company and do our own things instead of like trying to work on other people's projects? And, of course I was like, yeah, sure. Sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And that was kind of the start of our business. No plan, no nothing. We just were like, let's just go do this. And honestly, that's how the company started. And we got very involved. I remember we got a $2,000 loan from his father to buy some camera equipment and a light and a lighting kit and all that. And we just started. We didn't know what we were doing, but we figured, well, we're just going to start doing things. And I remember one of our first jobs was with the company my wife was working at the time, and they had hired us to make a video for their company. And then we got really heavily involved in doing weddings and all that stuff because, hey, we needed money. And it actually turned out to be a way that's actually where we started to figure out like learning how to like market and meet clients and talk to clients and deliver customer service. I mean, everything that we learned about business was so trial by fire. Like I guess you could say we did everything the long and hard way. Nothing was easy for us, but we learned a lot along the way. And And eventually, we got into doing music videos, and we were very active in the music industry for probably the first 7 years of our career, working with various artists. I mean, we had the chance to work with Sting and Tony Bennett, Chris Bodie. We worked with a lot of rock bands too. I remember we worked with Train, and then we worked with like some of the more like MTV2 bands like My Chemical Romance and Thursday and things like. So we had a long, relatively long but short career in the music industry until around, I'd say maybe 2007. The music industry kind of took a nosedive, and that was really when we kind of became a company, like for real. Like we'd been in business, but it was kind of transformed at that point from two guys running around with cameras just doing whatever to like, wait a second, like we can actually really turn this into a profitable business now. And that's when we said we're going to start working with corporations and more go more commercial route, and start working with more agencies and so on and so forth. And that point was sort of like when Gray Sky 2.0 was formed. And from there, that's when we really started like growing as business people, moving from just being artists, filmmakers, to like learning like this is what it takes to build a business. And one of the first business books that we were handed by a friend of ours, and there's a whole other long story, was the E-Myth book. And reading that book was like the equivalent of being punched in the face by somebody and saying, hey, guys, this is how you do a business. And every page in that book was like, this is me. Wow, this is the same thing. This is the same problem we're having. And that book was like opening the floodgates for us, and like really having an awakening as to like, this is how you build business. So that was the start of that. And then from there, through a ton of hard work and series of events, I mean, that's when the company really grew. And we started bringing on staff and hiring and growing and getting bigger projects, and just really learning how to become better business people. And eventually we were able to grow the company from, two guys in my front porch to, a company with a 65 square foot office and a studio, and getting it all up into turning into a 7-figure company.
So exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I could probably just write a book just on that. Like, how did two knuckleheads from New Jersey who don't know anything about business actually create a business, and through everything somehow turn it into the successful company that is still going today? It's still going. My business partner is full on, taking Gray Sky Films in the direction he wants to go in, and the company's very much alive and well.
That's great to hear. I have to ask this question because I just been holding it in. So
yeah,
I
don't hold it in.
I would love to hear, like, what is been your favorite experience from your music video days? Like, what was either your favorite or most memorable, or something that surprised you about that experience?
A lot of great stories, and I learned so much. We learned so much about so many things, not just from the technical side, but also, learning how to deal with people and personalities. And our mentality was always like that. We're going to treat this company like a band. Like, we're going to treat Gray Sky Films like we are in a band. And that's how we approached a lot of the music videos and things that we created. And all that stuff was so much fun to do. I mean, it really was. It was a blast. We met tons of people, hung out with cool people, and really created a lot of projects I'm very proud of to this day. A really cool story in particular, so I'll tell you a quick story, is we had the opportunity to interview Tony Bennett and film him at his apartment in Manhattan. And it was one of the things when we were we had done a lot of work with Sony, and we were working with Sony. And so we were producing what they call EPKs, electronic press kits. And those were created by the labels to be sent to media outlets in anticipation of the release of a record. And so everybody would send us out and news, and they could cut it up and use it however they want. So at this point in time, I forget which record it was, but Tony Bennett had a record coming out. And so we went, it was me, Mark, and one of the other people from Sony. And we went there, and we went to his apartment, and we set up and filmed. And, it was it was very nerve-wracking. Like normally we're very professional, and we understand that like when you're in these situations and you're not a fan, you're there to do a job and be professional and be extremely respectful. And we were always like that. And we were like that in this situation. But the Tony Bennett factor was like, it was just a little like, wow, this is Tony Bennett. Like, this is like, like Frank Sinatra, and like, this is like on that level, And I remember we went to his apartment, and, we had all this gear in the hallway, and, knocked on the door, and it's like, you figure like, oh, somebody's an assistant or something. Nope. He opens the door, and it's like your grandfather, like, hey fellas, how you guys doing? Welcome. Come into my house. And we're like, just the super nicest, most hospitable guy I think we've ever worked with. Couldn't have been a kinder person, who just was so cool to be around, and just so happy and super respectful of us and what we were doing. And it was just, it's such a great experience, because it just sticks out so much that, here's a guy that is just like, when you think about iconic, singers, and I mean, Tony Bennett, I think you can pretty much say Tony Bennett to any age group, and they know instantly at least who Tony Bennett is. And so it's just so nice to see a guy like that be so cool and very down to earth, and be so respectful, and just happy to see us, and then talk to us. And then he's showing us his paintings and sits down by the piano. It was just such an awesome experience. So I have so many different stories, but that one just really sticks out, because he was just such a nice guy. Really, really was a gentleman. Old school. I love it.
I love that you had that special experience with somebody who's touched so many different generations and different lives, and a resurgence with Lady Gaga and guest appearances at Billy Joel concerts, and
he's just you never know, because sometimes it's like that when you meet people in these professions who are very famous, and they have the celebrity side, and there's the side they show the world, and then there's the real person, and you don't know sometimes what you're going to get, and you have to be prepared for anything and roll with it and be a professional. And that's it at the end of the day. And he was the real deal, like the real article.
So you had this video production company, and then you decide to exit and start Rocket Growth. So what propelled you to do that? What was calling you to do that?
So at the end of the day, for me, it was really, I've always wanted to help people and pay it forward. I mean, when Mark and I very, very first got involved in our business, I don't know, maybe like a year in, we met an individual, and I'll say it's Nicholas Pascarella, and he still is to this day my financial planner. And we had met him very early on. I mean, we were no experience whatsoever in running business. And he just took Mark and I under his wing, and really was a true mentor to us, taught us, really took the time to teach us things, even like the basic stuff, like how to properly invoice people. I mean, when I tell you we were green in this, I mean, that's how green we were, like invoicing people properly. I mean, he really, really took the time to show us, like, what true customer service was like, how you go above and beyond for a client. And that's never, I mean, that made such a huge impact on me early on, and it's always stayed with me. And it's such a great value to instill in people, especially when you're starting out. And one of the first books, first business, I mean, E-Myth made a huge, and that was 7 years later, but the first book that I ever read business wise that he gave us both copies of, because it made such an impact in his life when he was a young child, was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that is a book that you can read at so many different points in your life, and different parts of it will make sense to you along your journey and path. And having him be a part of that, and having read that book early on was such a huge influence on me. And so that feeling of being helped when somebody could not, they just could have not have done that and have gone at much extra effort, it's always left a mark on me. And I've always paid that forward. I've always tried to do the same for others as much as I can along the way. And I love the feeling that I get from that. And it's something that it's been a burning desire. I've wanted to always do it. As much as I've loved creating and doing everything I did at Gray Sky Films over the 20 years and being involved in that, there was always a part of me that just really wanted to pursue this in some way. I wasn't sure how or what or how to do it, but it was just always there. And then, I'd say over the last, few years, it was something I started thinking about more and thinking about more. And honestly, and it's like, it's weird because 2019, we came off our highest revenue generated year as a company, as Gray Sky Films. And it was a great feeling. What a sense of accomplishment, so proud of myself, so proud of our team that we could reach that height and then start this year rolling right in with that momentum. But, there's still that feeling that I had. And honestly, I will say, I don't think if the pandemic hadn't happened in that way, I probably would have stayed at least on board with Gray Sky longer. But there was something about this and the timing and say, man, there's so many people out there that could use my help, that could really use the help of what I know, the knowledge I've had from 20 years of experience of doing Gray Sky that I could do now. And like, I really don't want to wait. I want to start doing this now. I want to start helping people. And my wife was like one of the voices that was like, you know what, you got to do this. You got to do this. Like, you've been talking about doing it. Now's the time to do it. People really can use your help out there. And that was it. I just said, you know what, you're right. I'm not waiting. I shouldn't be waiting for this anymore. And, and of course, and then, you have to have all those difficult conversations with yourself and be honest with yourself, which was hard. And then obviously the difficult conversation I then had to have with my business partner, which ultimately turned out really well. And I know that's usually not par for the course when a partner, wants to leave and all that. But in this case, it very much was the most amicable, most positive thing that could happen. And as I said, Mark is off doing now Gray Sky under the way he wants to do it and taking it in a direction now he wants to go in. And, and I'm able to now do this and pursue this passion that I have for helping others.
And so I take away a couple of things from your story. One is having a mentor who
Huge.
guided you and your business partner through your journey and still to this day.
Yep.
So super important. And the other thing that's not really talked about as much is you're talking about purpose-driven leadership and values-driven leadership. You followed your heart. You had this calling. You could have stayed quote unquote comfortable in what you were doing with Blue Sky,
Absolutely.
but you felt this calling to pay it forward, to support others in their journey, especially now during these very, very, very tough times. So I'm so happy for you that you listened, because not everybody listens to that calling.
Yeah, it's like I said, it wasn't I don't want to make light that the decision wasn't a difficult one to make, because having invested so much time and effort into 20 years of building something with somebody, this is my best friend, I trust, we went to school, we trust each other, we got each other's back all the time, always, we're like brothers in arms. And to be able to then make that decision, I won't say I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't feel guilty, I didn't feel like I felt like I was letting everybody down, like all these were real emotions. But at the end of the day, like, you also have to say, like, well, but my happiness should be really part of that too. And like, this is, going into this half in is doing a disservice to the team and to the people. And that's not fair. So, really coming to that decision and doing that was really ultimately like, I got to follow my passion. I have to be happy. I do have to put myself on top of that. But then also the flip side is, if I just decide to stay in and I'm not fully committed, like, that does more damage than not doing it, And so that was a big part of the decision to move forward. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do have to follow, what makes you happy. And I know, and it's not easy. It really isn't. I mean, you'd think it's easy because, hey, but it's happiness, it's here. But there's a lot of things that, you're entangled sometimes that are hurdles that you have to get through to get there. But that's just part of life. And that's a challenge. And, everybody has a unique situation that's different. Mine was this, and, yours, you've had situations, and everybody listening to this, I'm sure, has a unique situation that either they're dealing with now to get to that point, or they had to deal with to get to that point to obtain the happiness that where they want to be. But it's just, you really just got to say, like, what's the alternative? Like, we're on this earth, for a very short amount of time. It's a blip. And at the end of the day, like, time is the one thing is that we never, ever get back. Once it's spent, it's gone. right? That's it. Like the moment that we just had 5 minutes ago, that's gone. I'm never getting that back. Like, and you just have to look at that. Like, what are you doing with the time that you're here, that you have, and make the most of it. And so if you're not happy doing one thing, then, it's, when are you going to be happy, And so you just got to do it. You got to make that choice and then commit and make it happen. And once you do that, you'll find that you look at things differently. Like a whole new world opens up to you, even though it's been there the whole time, but you just see things differently. Like, your perception is it's definitely cleaner. It's sharper. Because you're happy. You're at a spot that you haven't been at for a while. It's amazing what the mind does and opens these things up. And then basically your subconscious takes over and starts pushing you towards these things. And this is all in Think and Grow Rich. I mean, this is all in there. Nothing that I'm talking about was created. It's in that book, and that's been recycled through many, many different stories and different people, but the message is always the same. If you think it, you'll become it. That's it.
So let me ask you this question. When you look back, right, what advice would you give your younger self now with the perspective that you have now?
The advice I would definitely give to my younger self would be, I mean, it definitely probably would have been nice to have had a business a class or two in college, at least maybe an accounting class. I don't know, something like that would have been nice as a foundation, because, and that's the one thing too. Like, actually, they should make, if you're going to go to school, they should probably make it, if you're saying, hey, I'm being a filmmaker, they should make you take a business class or something that sets you up for that kind of stuff, because it would have been nice to have had some sort of a foundation of that. But also that being said, like, there's the replacement for, experience and all that. I mean, maybe it shaves off a couple of years of trying to figure stuff out, but, you just can't predict that kind of stuff. So, I would say probably that at this point. I mean, I always found myself to be very open to things and trying new things. So I don't think I've ever been closed-minded to experience or opportunities like that. I guess it's just being a little bit more aware of, but then again, I never knew I was going to start a business back then. So it was, it's one of those, well, I didn't know that, and I didn't know I was going to start a business, but it would have been helpful to have had that. So, I probably would have taken a business class or two.
So this brings me to a question about resiliency, right? So you've been resilient. You started a business without a foundation, and then
Basically
you decided you had an inflection point earlier this year with this pandemic, and saying, okay, what is it that I want to do for the next few years? And you said, you know what, I want to follow this calling. So what would you say about resilient, how you're being resilient? How do you handle it?
So resiliency for me, it definitely, number one, it absolutely starts with mindset. You have to have a positive mental attitude, PMA. I mean, once again, to talk about Think and Grow Rich, but nothing that you're ever going to want to do will work if you don't have a positive mental mindset. You have to, and it's hard. Okay. It's hard. It takes work to maintain that and to keep it and to keep out negative thoughts. We are human beings. We're definitely, influenced by things we hear, things we see, and it takes work to shut that stuff out. Or, you do think about it. Okay, great. And now cast it out and get back on to your main mindset. So mindset plays a huge part in this. So you have to start with that. You have to start with changing your mindset and being as positive as you possibly can, and making that your main thought. Like, wake up in the morning and whatever you have to do, mantra, look at something, read something, watch something, listen to something, whatever it does to get you in that mindset and snaps you into it, is what you should do. So that's the first thing that I can give as the best advice for resiliency. And I think the next part is creativity. I think oftentimes people get confused as to what creativity really is. I think people immediately go, oh, of course, Chris, you were a filmmaker, you were a video, of course you were creative. That's what you did. You were creative services. But that's not necessarily it. to creative services is a talent, and it was something I was able to do. I learned how to do it. I enjoyed doing it. I loved doing it, and I learned how to do it, but it was a tool. It was a tool to learn how to make movies and films and do video and editing and all that. But creativity really just comes down to like, creative thoughts. Like, how would you do something differently? How would you approach this differently? How would you think about something differently? Like, that's creative thinking, and for everybody so quick to say, well, I'm not creative, I didn't go to that, I didn't get trained. You don't have to be trained to get creative. We're all creative. It's just we either forget how to use it, or we just haven't tapped into it in a very long time. And so that creativity, that line of thinking, will also help you maintain resiliency, because it is the thing that you can lean on. Between the mindset and the creativity are the things that will help you to get out of the tough times. And believe me, we've seen plenty of tough times in our lifetime, and this one being one of the craziest, and talk about things you would never think happening in your lifetime. But hey, here it is, and we're all dealing with it, and everybody has found a creative way. And sometimes that creative way is like, hey, I'm making a change in life, or I'm going to do something different, or I'm just going to decide to approach things a little bit differently today. Like, that's, you're not talking about huge shifts. Little things make a difference over time. They really do. I'm 1% better than I was yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. I'm happy with that. Like, that's fine, because that adds up. It really does.
Absolutely. So I'm going to repeat. So the 3 key takeaways about resiliency here is about your mindset, about creativity, and being 1% better.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you empower yourself and your clients?
I empower myself and my clients because this brand for me, Rocket Growth Agency, is all around the one mantra I say when I sign off on my podcast and everything. I always say, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it. Like, and that's, I say that to other people because I say it to myself, because it is about that. Like, this whole brand, Rocket Growth Agency, like, this is 1,000% me. It's real. This is me. This is how I talk all the time. This is how I'll talk to you about Star Wars for hours on end. I'll talk to you about Van Halen on end, and guitar and music and whatever I heard or watched on TV or a book I read. Like, that's just how I am. But that stuff makes such a big impact and influences me. And that's the thing I tell everybody else is, like, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it. Like, that's the whole crux of everything that I'm talking about here is, don't worry about this perceived version of what you should be or what you think people expect you to be. Like, that's not where you obtain true success. Like, true success is embracing who you really are and using that. Like, use your strengths. Like, you have inherent strengths, use them, exploit them in a very good way when I use the word exploit, but use them, lean on them. Like, don't be ashamed of or scared or nervous. Like, embrace that, embrace change, embrace yourself, and use that. And that will help you gain the success that you want. If you're here and you want to be here, like, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, start by taking like a really good look at yourself, like audit yourself, like, what are you really good at? What are you super knowledgeable about? Like, okay, I'm really knowledgeable about, the thing that I do in life, whatever that is. Like, I'm really good at making widgets. Great. I know the audience that wants to make those widgets. Great. I know who wants to use these. Awesome. What else you really got? Well, I'm a really good chef. Like, I went for training and I can cook really well. That's awesome. I want to hear about that. Like, I'm actually more interested in hearing about that than like the widgets that you're producing, but that's cool. Like, but that's you. But then now you're starting to say, like, well, now you're top of mind because now I'm watching you talk about food and all this. But now you're top of mind when I like want to go buy XYZ from you. It's like, share the knowledge that you have. Don't be afraid to put that out there, because that's the stuff that people want to hear. So that's why I say be authentic, and being yourself and rocking it. Like, that's what that means.
So I'm going to repeat that. Be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it. So before we sign off today, tell me what you would like the audience to remember about our conversation.
I think the big things I would like for everybody to remember about our conversation are, one is definitely mentor. I don't think that I can really punctuate enough how much it meant to me to have a mentor in my life so early in my career. And I've had many, and I still do. I have my little group of mentors I still lean on and throw things by and ask and reach out to. And it's sometimes it's hard to ask for help, but don't be afraid to ask for help, because that is the stuff that makes a big difference. And it certainly made a huge difference in my life. So that is one takeaway. Another one is what I just said is, be authentic and be yourself. Embrace the change that's around you. Change is hard. Change can be fearful, but don't be scared of it. Really embrace it. Because once you embrace it, you'll probably find that that's going to be where you're going to become happier. And at the end, I mean, like I said, we're only here for such a short time in this world, and anything can happen at any moment, like a pandemic. And why not spend that time being happy and surround yourself with people who make you happy? So those are my main takeaways, and it's right there. It really is there. And I know for some people there are some dark things going on at the moment, but it will pass. And we will go on, and we just have to, embrace and cherish the moments that we do have, and use that as fuel to energize us and get that mindset going, and things will happen. They really will.
Yes. So not being afraid to ask for help and to be yourself and to recognize change is happening. So you have choices to either embrace it or you can reject it, but change is still happening. The train's left
Right.
the station.
Yeah, I mean, listen, by not, I was just, and I didn't say this was something that was on my one of my recent podcasts. I think it was Chris Roush, who is a mentor of mine as well. He said, he goes, making the choice to not make a choice is making a choice.
Yes.
So either way, you have an option and you have a choice to make.
Absolutely. So Chris, how can people find you? Because you want to make sure that you can be found.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very easy to be found, but if you want to learn more about Rocket Growth Agency and what I do and the services we provide, you can head over to rockitgrowthagency.com. That's ROCKIT growth, GROWTH agency.com. You can also find me pretty much anywhere on social at Chris Vaglio. And my last name is spelt V as in Victor, AGLIO. You can find me there on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, TikTok, and of course, LinkedIn. And I'm very active on all different channels, things like that. I also have a YouTube channel, which is Rocket Growth Agency, where I put a lot of content out on there, a lot of video content. That's also too where the live streams will live after, they've streamed. And I do have a podcast, which can be pretty much listened to on any podcast streaming. However you listen to podcasts, you just look for Rocket Growth Agency and it'll pop up.
Terrific. So I'm going to repeat that. You can find Chris at rocketgrowthagency.com. He's on social at Chris Vaglio, Vaglio. He's got his YouTube channel and podcast under the same name, Rocket Growth Agency. And I want to thank you so much for sharing very authentically and in a fun way. It's been a joy to spend time with you today. And to our audience, really take Chris's advice to heart about being yourself and following your passions and purpose and to be happy, because we spend so much time sometimes doing things that maybe aren't in alignment with who we are, but recognize we have a short time on this physical earth and to use it wisely and with things that bring us joy. So to our audience, until the next conversation.